because dragons are just in general very distinguished looking creatures. I mean, they're said to be quite large, and just the way that they look. I mean, that's even more difficult for someone to believe in than some of these other things. If you're comparing the two main different beliefs of paganism, you've got the modern ones that will say that they only exist in the spirit realm. Then you've got the ancient paganism that says that they do exist both spirit realm and physical realm, but that they stay hidden and they don't reveal themselves unless they have a really good reason to. Whether or not you believe they exist in the physical realm, their magic is the same, their meaning is the same, what they do is the same. Basically, it's just where you think they can exist. So I'm going to separate myth from truth in that. And again, I practice the ancient paganism, so I do believe that they can potentially be in the physical realm. So basically, if you think about our history, before people had boats, before people had any ability to communicate with one another from two opposite sides of the world, you have people independently that can't reach one another, can't physically reach one another or communicate with one another. They're isolated. There's no way to travel that far. And you've got documents of people basically drawing and describing the exact same thing independently of one another, unaware that one another exists, all the way over here on one side of the earth and all the way over here on the opposite side of the earth, and independently, all these different people that cannot collaborate with one another, don't even know that someone else is out there that far away. No way of transportation, and still independently drawing exactly the same thing. Like, I mean, so specific. This is such an odd, distinguished thing for people to be drawing the exact same thing independently of one another. If that many people saw it the same way, relatively the same way, enough to where you can, no matter what you look at, no matter what part of the earth you look at, you can still at least say, oh yeah, I know what that is, that's a dragon. If it's that similar, then how did they independently see that, if they were making it all up? Let me put it this way, if it wasn't a dragon, then what the fuck were they seeing? What the fuck did they see? Because they obviously saw something, right? And again, modern paganism is going to tell you that it's some kind of spirit, but a lot of these stories are just way too physical. It's more than just seeing something. It's got a way too physical, like it was really there, feel to a lot of these stories. And I'm actually not even including the stories that are obviously just theatrics. I'm not even including those. I'm including the ones that, might have some truth to them. All those big fish stories, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about other stories. And you start to wonder, if that many people saw it, and you think 1,000+ years of being hunted and people wanting to annihilate you because the Abrahamic belief kind of set in and took over, and all of those people thought it was a demon, so a lot of the bounty for something like a dragon was even higher than just a regular old witch. So if they could find something like that, it was an even higher bounty. So basically, you've got now in a world where maybe witches are a little more accepted. Most people don't go if they don't like us, they at least don't go as far nowadays as to like burn us or hang us. But how do you tell a creature that? If they knew you existed, they might accept you or they might not. We don't know. We don't know how people would react. And so basically anything like that is so obvious like that has to find a different way to blend in. They have to do it with magic, and dragons have immense amount of magic. I mean, their magic is on a whole nother level. There's not many other things that I could think of that match a dragon as in terms of how just much raw power and magic they have. So if anything could hide something that brutally obvious, it would be a dragon. I mean, they would be able to have immense cloaking magic, immense invisibility and illusion and stuff like that. I mean, that even to the point where when they die, their bones are hidden. You know, they're quite intelligent. They're not these mindless beasts that you see in fairy tales, and so they would know better. They would know that if someone found the bones, that they would also be discovered. So basically, you have to look at it like, okay, they're in hiding, and they're only going to reveal themselves if extremely important, and if they trust, and that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Basically, we've been looking in all the wrong places, and we've been looking at this backwards of what we need to. And I'd say when you talk about just how much magic they're said to have, almost anything is possible in terms of existing without anyone knowing you're there. Their breath also is a big one, and I don't mean just fire or ice, I mean a lot more than that. They've got the ability with their breath, if they want to either just their breath alone, no fire added, no nothing, just air, just clear, nothing at all, just air. They have the ability with just their breath alone to either kill something or protect something. For example, turn something to stone. I mean, whatever they think, whatever they, I mean, probably to a certain extent, because you imagine that just like us, some would have the gift to do certain things and others would only be able to do, but they at least have the ability to decide whether they want to kill you with it or whether they want to protect you with it. I would imagine that at least that, and then maybe you would have I don't know, an ice dragon that only breathes ice, and a fire dragon that only breathes fire, and other things. But at least to the point where, if you're not talking about anything physical, if they breathe on just their breath alone, can still kill you or save you, depending on how they see you. If they see you as evil, then it's gonna kill you immediately, but if they see you as something worth protecting, then they're going to try and heal you. It can just as much destruction as it can cause, it can actually take someone from near death, knocking on death's door, and save their life with healing properties. So it really depends on their intent as to what that is used for. The scales and stuff, a lot of people say their scales have got these almost like immortal, impenetrable scales, but I think that depends on the dragon, honestly. And I think that whilst you would imagine that it would be strong enough maybe to stop certain weapons, I don't know if they'd stop all weapons. I don't know about that one. Let's see. They're definitely not, mindless things that just go and kill off entire towns for no reason. If they target something, it's because a lot of evil resides there. They're protectors of the forest, and they're going to protect nature at any cost. And so, they're not protectors of stupid gold or anything like that. What they protect is the land, the forest, any living thing that deserves to have protection. That's the kind of stuff that they protect, but they're very fierce protectors. Have I ever seen any proof personally? I've not actually seen one, but I have seen something odd, and I'll leave it up to you as to whether or not you think this is proof, because I really can't make sense of it. So I'll leave it up to you, and you can decide. But I will say that there's absolutely no logical explanation for what I'm about to say. When I was a young child, I had a pretty rough childhood. I had a lot of just really severe trauma, child abuse, and I remember it being a really painful day, a really painful, bad day, and it had just gotten nightfall, no longer than I'd say an hour or so ago, and we were walking out into the parking lot with my mother, and I just remember feeling like half dead. That's how I felt. That's how painful from what they'd done to me earlier in the day, and I just was kind of really groggily looking around. I guess groggily is not the right word, because I wasn't asleep, but it was just kind of lazily looking around and trying to just distance myself any way I could from being with my mother. And my mother was talking to someone, and she was all really enveloped in that conversation, and I was just kind of standing off to the side in my own little world, because that's where I found peace. So I was just kind of, looking at this barren parking lot, mostly barren, and there's this little light, there's little light posts, and on top there's the light, well, about there, like here's the light, and then the bottom of the post is about here, so it's about right there. And all of a sudden I just start seeing this horizontal stream of fire coming out, but I don't see anything. It's just thin air and nothing but the stream of fire. And it couldn't have been a comet or anything like that, because it was way too low. It wasn't even in the sky at all. I mean, it was at the same level as the light post, and atop that, I tried to get my mother to look at it, because I didn't know what it was, and I was really curious to know what it was. One thing, as a child, I had to know why, like everything, I had to know why. So I tried to get her to look, and she was really being annoyed because she was in this conversation. But when she finally did look, it was gone. And this happened like 2 or 3 times, where I'd finally get her to look, and then literally the second she looked, it was gone. And then when she turned her back, it would come back. And so it's like it didn't trust her enough to show itself, but it was remaining invisible, but it showed the fire. Dragons are meant to protect things. I'm just wondering if it knew I needed some kind of help, and it was trying to show me I wasn't alone. I don't know, but it was just like this fire, and it wasn't really anything. I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I remember feeling like absolute shit physically through all the pain. I went through a lot of pain that day, physically, what they did to me. And about 30 minutes after seeing that stream of fire, I had no pain. The pain was gone. And I couldn't explain that either. I couldn't explain. I should have been in pain for days, if not a week plus. And I had no pain after about, like I said, 30 minutes after that situation. So take it for what you want to, but what else could it, in my mind, what else could it be, and if you don't see something like that, you're always going to be a skeptic, and I don't blame you, but I tell you, that changed my life.